Healed family. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Every Detail Matters with Alexis Danielle. Super excited that you have decided to tune in today, or even if you're watching this video at a later date. I'm super excited that you're here. This channel, it really is dedicated to just the opportunity we have to heal and to thrive individually, but also in our families through the trauma that we've endured, through the pain that we've experienced, and the healing we pursue. And so on this channel, we believe that every detail of your story matters. And so I'm going to be taking information from lived experiences that I've had or clients that I've served, paired with clinical insights and faith to encourage you on this journey of ours as we continue to heal and be whole. So today, we're starting off a new series that's really just going to be talking about what I mentioned. But today's episode is the silence we inherited. I want you to really think about that. Silence really can be a powerful thing when we're using it for reflection, just time that we like to spend alone. But also, silence can be deadly. Have you ever heard that? It can be deadly when it comes to the pain that we've experienced, that we've had to remain silent concerning it, and that we've had to suppress it, and we've internalized it silently and independently, which means we've gone through it in the dark. We've gone through the pain by ourselves, and we did not have or seek out a safe space to discuss it, to process it, or even just simply say what hurt us. And so today, I want to invite you into a discussion that will continue over the course of a few videos. But today, again, we're talking about the silence we inherited. There's a few sayings that come to mind, and one being, what goes on in this house stays in this house. I know you've heard that before, because I've heard it. And here's the thing with that quote. I believe whomever started it, right? And it's been passed down from generation to generation in our families, that there were good intentions, right? And because it was something special or sacred around keeping private the affairs of the family, what's happening behind closed doors, encouraging children as they grow through their different ages and phases to not go out and tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your friend groups, or whatever it is, but to keep it safe and sacred in our home, because the information was not for everybody. But here's what that did, because for people who endured things such as abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, neglect, or whatever it was, because this message of privacy, confidentiality, and the power of silence was passed down, it caused us to not give vent to the things that hurt us, which ultimately hurt us in the long run. Okay, so this is the silence that we inherited, and this video is all about cultivating safe spaces to begin to talk about those things that hurt us. And so I grew up in a home where addiction, abandonment, rejection, incarceration, and even mental health, right, was a part of my family's story. And it was talked about from the standpoint of, I would hear my great grandmother just kind of express her frustration with my mother or my uncles or whomever it was about their drug addiction, and how although she was showing love to them through their struggle, she also put some very firm boundaries in place, which meant that they just couldn't come over and stay and do what they wanted to do, because she knew that it was risky, but she didn't want the risk to outweigh her love for them. So she found a really good balance in between to show what we call tough love. But that was the only instance that I heard it talked about. And I remember, just as a child dealing with absent parents, because both of my parents were on drugs. And nobody talked about that with me when I was a child, like kind of walked me through why they were absent, or even getting into adolescence. I don't remember having a conversation with anybody. So I had to really kind of grow up and define their absence for myself, and watch this, define the impact that it was having on me, because I didn't have language. I was young, didn't understand it. I just knew mom and dad was not there. So you see how the impact of silence can really play on your psyche, play on your identity, and influence us when we get into adulthood, how we show up in everyday life, but especially how we show up in our relationships. And in another video, I'm going to go through what that can look like as it relates to the impact of parental absence. So here's what I want you to know. Unspoken pain does not disappear. So just because we've adopted this practice to remain silent, our silence does not mean that it's going to disappear. Matter of fact, it's going to stay there, and it's going to fester, right? And it's going to grow legs into other things that can potentially be emotionally and socially, and here's this, spiritually harmful in the future if we remain silent. So the silent pain can show up in how we parent. For those who may have children, right? You endured abuse or neglect as a child, and now you are a parent and having to learn how to parent in a healthy way while coping through the pain you've remained silent on for so long. So it shows up in how we trust. Sometimes when we've endured painful circumstances, and because we haven't processed it, because we haven't found a safe space to process it, it makes us very mistrustful of people, of systems, whatever it is. So it makes it really hard for us to enjoy our relationships, because we just simply have a mistrust of people. It comes up and it shows up in how we carry shame. So I want to speak to that just for a moment. When it comes to pain we've endured, because like I said earlier, we don't have language for it, we just know it hurt, and we begin to internalize it. And most of the time, children internalize the pain and the abuse and the neglect that they've endured, and they internalize it as in guilt and shame. What did I do? Or I must have done something to deserve this. Right? So we carry that shame even into adulthood. So intergenerational trauma, you all, is not just about what happened. It's about what wasn't healed and what was emotionally unavailable. So I just dropped a word there that I didn't mention in the beginning, which is intergenerational trauma. And that suggests that there has been cycles of trauma that have matriculated throughout generations in our family. Now, it does not mean that the same type of trauma happened. Although I've worked with a lot of families where the same type of trauma, drug addiction, incarceration, sexual abuse, have literally happened in multiple generations. But sometimes it's different, right? Sometimes it's different. But intergenerational trauma is something we have to talk about from a place of pursuing healing and wholeness for ourselves and our families. It is time now to begin having the difficult conversations. It is time now to begin giving vent to the things we've been silent about for so long. Why? because we want to live with freedom. We want to walk with freedom. We want to exist with freedom in our relationships and how we show up in the world. So today is just a brief video about the impact of silence and the silence that we have inherited. Now, that word inherited is powerful because it suggests, right, that this trauma that I've experienced is not because of my own doing, but I have inherited trauma, which means my mother went through some very hard and difficult things that she didn't know how to deal with nor cope with, and it carried on that impact to me. Or my grandmother, which in turn went down to my mother, and now my mother to me. You inherit pain sometimes that you had not caused. So, in closing, I created this series because our stories matter. I don't care how good, bad, ugly the details are of our stories. It's not about airing dirty laundry, but it's about, again, giving vent to the things that are true for us so that we can reclaim our identity and live well and begin to rewrite the narrative of what living well looks like for us and for our families. So I hope that you tune in on the next video. I will be sharing information about the impact of parental absence. Let me say it like this: the wound of parental absence. Listen, your story is my story, and let's heal together. So, healed family, until next time, thank you for tuning in.